Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I am your host, Alex Martinez, and today I am really excited to have my new friend, Chad Kuhn, on the show. He is a black belt under James Clingerman, and he is the head instructor of Team East Coast BJJ in Canton, Ohio, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then he is also the co-host of the Limitless Radiocast. And Chad, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's get right into it, man. Tell me about jiu-jitsu in Ohio, man. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's as anywhere we are in today's world, it's come a long way, right? Like I started jiu-jitsu in 2004, and it was hard to find. I was kind of a lifelong martial artist. Started karate back in the day when I was like 7 years old, and did it for quite a while. And I always went back to martial arts through high school. I'd go back to karate and see what I was missing, and then, like everybody, our age, we watched the first UFC and it's like, well, what's this? So it took me and that was like right out of high school. I graduated in 94, and started watching the UFCs, and like, man, I couldn't find jiu-jitsu anywhere. And so I finally found it at East Coast Martial Arts, where I still am.
Wow.
And it was, no gi only.
Yeah.
And kind of grew from there,
Yeah. Did you do any kind of did you do any MMA? Were you inspired so much by the UFC that you did that?
No, I think so. I was 29 years old when I started jiu-jitsu and really didn't have any desire to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm still small, but like when I started jiu-jitsu, I weighed 130 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm 6 foot. So yeah. And
Yeah.
I walk around, between 150 and 160 daily. So I'm still smaller for the guys in the gym, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I don't want to get punched in the face, and I just want to learn. And I didn't even know, we always say on the Limitless podcast, you don't know what you don't know, right? It's like I didn't even know what I was getting into.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say we did no gi, we might have been doing some MMA stuff that day, like clinch work or stuff off the wall, or like it was a couple years later until we started doing a more gi training.
Okay. Yeah. I just we do a lot of we do some pummeling drills when I'm warming up in no-gi classes. And part of the pummel drills are I have the guys pin each other to the wall.
Yeah.
And you got to circle around and pin the other person to the wall. It's a live little thing for a minute.
Yeah.
Exhausting, dude. Wall fighting is exhausting. So that's kind of cool. So let's talk about how jiu-jitsu got to Ohio. Who would you say is like at the forefront of that bringing jiu-jitsu like to Ohio?
So the little history I know is Jeff Hudson, who was under Helson, was the first jiu-jitsu school in Ohio, and that was in Columbus, Ohio. So that's 2 hours ish south of me.
Yeah.
And then from there is Robin Giesler, who is one of his students. Robin is a 5th or 6th degree under Helson, and that gym, Gracie, Ohio, is still thriving today. I don't know how much Jeff does, but like he is the forefront of bringing it here, as far as I'm of what I've heard. And then from there it branches out of, it got really big in Columbus. George Gergel, I'm sure you know who George is from the UFC.
Yeah.
He's still in Ohio. He's in the Cincinnati area. In Columbus as well, Dustin Ware, a good friend of mine who was a black belt under George, has done a lot for jiu-jitsu in Ohio, putting it out there and stuff. And then there was a Gracie gym in Cleveland back in the day from Craig Kramer. So that kind of got things going. So there's different parts of the state that has been pretty instrumental in keeping it going.
Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 guys in Arizona that we kind of credit for bringing it here and growing it here. So it's always interesting to hear who took the leap from Southern California to go to the Midwest. You know what I mean? That's
yeah. So another big names, and I didn't realize it because I was so new to jiu-jitsu, but Salo and Zanji used to be in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they came to the Midwest, and that's where they set up camp. I mean, and so Chris Blanky, another name, he's under the Ribeiro brothers. He's big in Ohio and still doing stuff. So man, they were like 2.5 hours from me, and I had no clue really who they were at the time,
Yeah.
So
oh, that's cool. Yeah. No, we have a lot of West Coast transplants, West Coast where it's kind of Southwest. We have a lot of guys from California that came out here. But I would say like we have Megaton Wellington, that's in
sure.
Arizona. We have Gustavo Dantas, and and Tanquino is out here, and then so we have quite a few people that have really moved the needle, in Arizona.
That's
and it's
awesome.
it's crazy. It's crazy. I started my academy. Me and my business partner started our academy the way on the it's barely the valley, way on the east side. And there's about four competitive, four competitors out there, which I love. I love that it's growing that much and there's that much of a market. But you would think it's kind of a little obscure, isolated area, but there's plenty to go around, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's, we are in Stark County in Canton. And we're the only jujitsu, like gi jujitsu place in Stark County for a long time. In the last couple years, there's been a couple other gyms open up. And at first you're like, oh man, but then it's good for all of us. Competition isn't always bad.
I love it.
It pushes you to be on top of your game,
So yeah. And it's really when it comes down to it, someone walking off the street, like for me, when I started jiu-jitsu, I was 40 years old and I walked into the academy and it could have been anywhere. I just happened to strike gold. You know what I mean? I found a really good academy, but it could have been anywhere. And I probably would have fallen in love with that place too. Right.
Yeah.
So when you first walk in, it's like, you don't really know what you're looking for, but it's, after you've been around for a little while, you start noticing like, oh, my academy does this. And I haven't seen really anybody else do this. So I kind of got to get it, that type of thing. So it's the little things, that you do as a business that makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I preach, at our gym, it's atmosphere before even learning or stepping on the mats. I want you to walk in and be like, man, this is a cool place.
Yeah.
Because we've all been to them places. If you've cross trained where you feel a little like, oh, I'm in for a fight today, or it's got a weird vibe, So I really pride running our facility on that atmosphere and friendship and talking to people and all that stuff.
Yeah. I tell folks that, back when I started, we kind of wore it as a badge of honor that few people made it out of like week one. And now as a business owner, I was like, I don't want to lose any of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's take care of these guys and build that, build. I kind of miss the old school mentality where it's like a bunch of sharks waiting for you on the mat.
Right.
That was kind of fun, but I also love the camaraderie of a more friendly type of atmosphere, right? More welcoming.
Yeah. And I've said before, like, as far as jujitsu has progressed in the last, we'll say 20 years or whatever, how we take care of our people has progressed even further.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting heel hooked my first class. Nobody said, hey, if this hurts, tap. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like we go through this regiment with our day one people. Like, it depends on the person. Like, I don't discourage rolling, but if you're not comfortable, sit and watch for a little while.
Yeah.
If you've wrestled, go ahead. What, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I also like, hey, if something hurts, tap. If your hands are trapped, say tap, stomp with your foot.
Yeah.
Do something to let that person know, that it hurts. And then move on. So,
and that it's funny you mentioned that because you talk to adults and they kind of get it, that to understand that. But when we're teaching kids, hey, when it hurts, make sure you tap. And then I started getting, complaints from parents that were saying, hey, my kid was tapping and the other person didn't let go. And I'm racking my brain. I was like, that's a really good kid. I'm sure he or she would let go. So I ask them and, I started asking questions and I realized that kids are tapping the mat on the far side of an arm bar where they're
lightly, right?
Feel. Yeah. So those are things like, as an instructor, you kind of grow and understand that, hey, you've got to let people know, not only tap, but tap where somebody can feel it, right? Or say tap. So that's interesting, man.
For sure.
So tell me about your first jiu-jitsu experience. Tell me about the first day.
So I can remember the first day. And again, I didn't know what to expect. It was no-gi and I had some like athletic shorts and probably a big t-shirt because you wonder what I was thinking back then too. So again, like I told you, I was 130 pounds. I'm skinny. Yeah. I wore bigger t-shirts because I thought that would hide it, but it actually looked worse. Like this skinny guy wearing this big extra large t-shirt. I think I even bought wrestling shoes and had knee pads. Like it was a mess. I kind of wish I had a picture, but glad I don't.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting on the mats and I don't remember what we learned that night. I remember doing some clinch stuff. And then when it came to roll, I rolled with this girl. Her name was Cody, and she destroyed me.
No way. That's awesome.
And I'm like, what? And I don't know where she's at now, but like, I'm like, I got to go back. Like, I got to, some people, it would discourage them, but I'm like, there's something here and I got to figure it out.
Yeah. Was she a blue belt?
There wasn't even no ranks because it was all no-gi.
All no-gi. Okay.
It was all no-gi. Nobody even knew anything about gi yet there,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, that's a question that someone asked me. Like, if somebody does just no-gi, how do they rank up? And I was like, well, we kind of just give them credit for the class. We kind of, just,
I feel that if you have like 10th Planet has a system for their no-gi, and I get, it's a touchy thing. Like for me, I feel like I'm a jiu-jitsu. I don't want to say a purist, but to me, to get rank, you have to train in the gi.
Yeah, I agree.
That's me. That's me. Obviously there's athletes out there that are going to compete and do things. And, Nicky Rod's a brown belt or whatever, and he was choking people's faces at blue belt in ADCC. It's like, we're going to have those people now, but to me, to get true jiu-jitsu, you have to train in the gi, and get rank. But
and I really enjoy, I enjoy the super fights. I enjoy the ADCC stuff like that. I just think, like you, I just enjoy playing in the gi. Like I enjoy the martial art,
I feel it's really more of a thinking man's game, like I've heard different things lately. They'll ask like high level gi or no gi guys, why don't you do gi? And they're like, well, I get wrapped up in the gi and I can't do anything. I'm like, well, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And I know there are stalling things where people won't do anything, and that needs to be handled and, keep the game moving. But also it's like, if I get wrapped up, what am I going to do? It makes you think a little bit more.
Yeah. And what I notice in no-gi competition, especially today, like, people are, and I'm not calling anybody anything. They're playing to the rule set and good on them. Right. But, if somebody scores like 2 points for a takedown or whatever, an advantage, they can really engage and disengage, and disengage. And there's really nothing you can do to pull them in like you can with the gi. You don't have that hook grip on the pants, or you don't have a hook grip on the sleeve that you can play with. So it makes
control that posture is a lot different, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and it's, I love watching all the who's number ones, and I'll watch all the jiu-jitsu I can.
Yeah.
But I've said since these things have started, like 20 and 30 minutes is too long to me.
Oh,
like, especially no-gi, because you're going to be so sweaty in 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a battle to finish that. And I think if you make it 10 minutes, I think it's going to be more active, and I would think so anyway.
Yeah. I think the big draw, like, when jiu-jitsu first came on the scene with the no time limit was, you just kind of knew that the no-gi or the jiu-jitsu guy was going to pull them into deep water and then get on the back and choke them. But when you've got two extremely high level jiu-jitsu competitors, without a gi, it's going to be a long 30 minutes. It
is. And then, obviously you have the argument of what's more fun to watch, gi or no gi, like, oh, no gi keeps the action going. But, we've also seen who's number one matches that are over 2 hours.
Yeah.
That one time, like, I love jiu-jitsu, but I don't want to watch that. Like, but I really think it also depends on the people. Like, you put the Rotullo brothers in a gi or no gi match, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
You put Mika Galvao in the same thing, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So I think it really comes down to the people that are in those matches too. Andrew Wiltsey, that guy's exciting. So
my evening instructor is a guy named Josh Cisneros, and Josh is originally out of California.
Okay.
Young guy, about 22 years old, just an awesome black belt. But he tells me, he goes, I want to win in spectacular fashion, gi or no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and rolling with him is a nightmare. I don't know if you get those kind of guys in your academy, but it's like, I feel like I'm on day one.
Yeah. I've got a few. Yeah, man. But I love it. Like I'll be 48 years old this year, and I roll with my students all the time. I'm just now getting over my first ever jiu-jitsu injury.
Oh,
I mean, in almost 19 years as my first injury. I had a sprained MCL.
Okay.
So my knee popped passing guard, and man, it hurt. I can still hear that sound that it made. So I've been off the mats for 3 months.
Oh man. Okay.
Just, I've had other people teaching, because it was painful. It's pretty painful, but I have some really good PT guys. I did some laser treatments. So I rolled twice this week with one of my purple belts just to see how I felt. He's my size. I trust him.
Yeah.
So just getting back in there. But again, prior to that, I roll 4 or 5 times a week, multiple
man.
times a day. And so I try to keep rolling with my students,
Well, for 19 years, you led a charmed jujitsu life.
I was getting to that point where like, man, and now it's scarier to go back almost, obviously I'm going to, but it's like, crap, I know it can happen. Obviously it just happened. So is the next time worse? Is it going to tear? Is it, and I think being smart and being in shape, and I'm pretty flexible and have good dexterity, that probably helped that when it popped,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hurt my left knee in the stupidest way possible. We're doing a new we're just drilling a guard pass from De La Riva.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, let's do the other side. Right. So I did I did the my bad side. Well,
right.
It's also my training partner's bad side. And its De La Riva hook was not quite what I thought it would be. So I expected some resistance when I extended my leg and turned my knee. Zero resistance. My knee just popped, and now it's like,
man,
now it just hurts. But
it sucks.
So tell me about that laser treatment. Is that deep heat kind of laser thing?
So they call it they called it cold laser therapy, but it's not cold. It's like this infrared laser. I did it twice a week, and each treatment was only 5 minutes long.
Yep.
And they just like hover above the area that hurts. And it's supposed to promote healing and blood to the surface and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel it helped. I don't know, you probably talk about placebo a lot. Does it work or not? But it felt pretty good. And obviously it's still sore, and I got to be careful because I play a lot of De La Riva, and that's the angle that it hurts at.
Yep.
So just have to tweak some things, but I feel it helped.
Yeah. There's nothing like an injury to expose what you do typically, right? Like, I was just rolling this morning, and I felt like, oh, I didn't realize I pull with my foot, that much, you know what I mean? Like when I'm playing, when I'm recovering guard, and people are like sprawl passing or whatever, I'm trying to pull them in. I'm like, ooh, I use that foot a lot, and I could feel it in my knee like every time. But yeah, I heard about that laser treatment. It's supposed to get like almost deep tissue, and you're right, you can't do it very long because it might burn you or something like that.
I don't know. They say some people will feel a tingling or a heat. I didn't feel anything.
That's great.
I maybe wear goggles, to put it to do it, and like but we'll see.
Yeah, man. Are you doing any kind of like a PT with weightlifting or anything like that?
I haven't done anything with weights yet. One of my blue belts, Sam, is a PT, so he's given me a lot of exercise to do, and it just like big on strengthening the quad is what we want to focus on. So leg raises or leg extensions, or you tie a band to your foot into the chair and just do some extensions from there. Some squats, and they don't have to be really deep, so just something to activate that quad is the big thing.
Yeah. What classes do you teach? Do you do just adults, or do you do kids as well?
I do now. I just do adults. I have a couple. One of my one of the other black belts, Pete, does a kids class, and then one of my blue belts does another kids class. We only have two jujitsu kids classes a week. We have a lot of I'm going to use the generic word karate. We still have like a karate program, but we incorporate jujitsu into that too. So, but mostly adults.
Yeah. Do you do fitness classes at your academy?
We do. So we have a program. It's actually our program that we trademarked and everything. It's called MMA Fit. I'll give you a little backstory and a history. Our gym was founded by Steve Heineman in 1986. And it was, Shotokan Karate Gym, and, kind of evolved into this. And he unfortunately passed away in 2015 of stage 4 cancer. But his wife still owns the gym, and I run day to day, and she's very involved in everything. And I talk to her a lot, and, we just keep it going. Keep it going. He was a very special, important person to me in my journey and all that stuff. I actually have his name tattooed on my arm with our logo, like our karate logo. So, so anyway, he created this MMA Fit program, and I'm sure a lot of people do it now. It's kind of like a boot camp HIIT type class. Kettlebells, med balls, battle ropes, different stuff like that. So it's a really cool class.
Yeah. How much mat space do you have in your facility?
So we're pretty lucky. So we have the whole facility is 6,000 square feet.
Oh, nice.
And we have about 4,000 feet of mats.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. So his goal was always, and he would always tell me this, like, I want people, the more mat space, the more people we have on the mats. We have some bleachers for parents. We have some tables. You can stand, but man, I want as much mat space as I can get.
Yeah, I'm lucky I have excuse me, I'm lucky I have business partners because I wouldn't even have bathrooms. I'd have mats like
Yeah.
wall to wall. I mean, that's all I want. I
Yeah.
want mat space and I want people rolling, man. I just love I love the look of a packed mat space.
Yeah.
You know, when everybody's just
Yeah.
getting it. It's so much fun, man. It's
It
so much
is.
fun.
It's
Yeah.
the more the better.
Yeah. So I'm curious to get your take on this because you've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, how long have you been teaching jujitsu?
So I started teaching young too. I started teaching like as a 2 or 3 stripe white belt.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So I did, I told you we started pretty much no-gi at East Coast, and then the guy that was our instructor at East Coast at the time, Mike Broom, had just gotten his blue belt from someone. And I knew he trained gi. And I'm like, hey, man, where else do you train? He's like, oh, I train in this guy's basement in Carrollton, Ohio, which is 40 minutes southeast of us, and it's this little farm country town, right? So he's like, give him a call, So I call him. He's like, he tells me to come. And I try to paint this picture for people. And there's certain things I remember about my early days of jujitsu. That first class at East Coast and then going to Dave's house the first time. So it's this little country town. I have no cell service.
Yeah.
I pull into this guy's house, which is connected to a cemetery.
Oh,
only a few people know where I'm at. My buddy that's going to meet me there.
Yeah.
And I knock on his door and he's like, hey, tells me who, introduce ourselves. He's like, yeah, wait in the basement. I'll be down in 5 minutes. I'm the only one there. So I'm like, okay, this is either going to go good or bad.
There better be a bike or candy down here, damn it.
Yeah, something. So that was my, Dave was my first, and he was a blue belt under Hoist at the time.
Okay.
He got it from that Cleveland gym that I mentioned. And that's where I started my gi training. And Dave was a guy that didn't start jujitsu until he was like 44, 45.
Yeah.
He wrestled for his whole life. But man, he showed me some awesome, I remember him showing me spider guard as a white belt. Wow. And with my length of being 6 foot, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, you're gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah. So Dave was my first induction into the gi. So I would still go to East. I trained at Dave's 3 times a week. He would charge us $5 a class. Wow. Is what he charged us.
Wow.
And we would do no gi like once a month. But I would still go back and forth to East Coast to get more rolls in. And then my buddy Mike got his blue belt from Dave. And then something happened with him and where he couldn't teach anymore. He's like, hey, it was Mr. Hyman at the time. He's like, hey, you're going to take over running the gi program. And I'm like a 2-stripe, 3-stripe white belt.
Wow.
So, and we didn't have a lot of people, a big class back then was maybe 10. It was like, holy crap, Now I go in on a Tuesday night and there's 40 people we teach. So
that's cool.
But yeah, I was teaching early on and I watched a lot of DVDs and
but
I only taught what I knew. I didn't go out of that. Like, hey, we're going to do a knee cut. I can show you how to open the guard and knee cut. We're going to do that. And we'll add an Americana and a Kimura onto that once we pass, Perfect. So yeah, that's how I kind of started teaching.
Yeah. And for those people that don't know, I just want to kind of, you can help me with this as well, because I started 10 years after you did. So I started in 2013. I started when I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
And when I first started, there was white belts and blue belts on the mat. If there was a purple belt on the mat, they were visiting from another academy.
Yeah.
My instructor was a black belt, is a black belt. But purple belts were very rare.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine when you started. Yeah. I mean, that's an anomaly, right? Like black belts were
I couldn't even tell you I don't even know who the first black belt I know who it was. Cause it just came up the other day. My first seminar ever was Shaolin Ribeiro.
No kidding.
That was my first seminar. Because there was a Nueve União affiliate in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah.
And they brought him in, and that was my first seminar. I just showed somebody the picture the other day, and I had no clue because he was pretty, showed some high level stuff. It wasn't looking now, it wasn't basic fundamental stuff, really. It was a little that their style is a little more, I don't want to say maybe flashy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was my first black belt I ever saw, I think.
Yeah, I think their style is very, I would call it like gosh, man, it's like I mean, it's got a very fundamental base, but it's got a lot of maybe, sugar coating on top.
Unconventional.
Unconventional is a very good word to use. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about, promoting, blue belts.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a lot of questions for you. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but promoting blue belts. So we our schools is fairly big. We have a good sized student base, and keeping track of them, obviously we use our CRM, and they have to check in and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Every promotion, I go to my coaches, and we get together as a staff, and I just say, I want to see your list of promotions, and that's not stripes. I'm talking just belts, right?
Yeah.
I want to see the obvious ones, right? And then I want to talk about a fast track, a student that you see that's just like, they are just getting it. And maybe we're going to fast track them. And what I do is I take everybody's list and I see commonalities. And if, if we have 6 coaches, if 5 of them mention one person, then that person is
we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you work that in your academy? Because I'm assuming you have a pretty good client base that you gotta keep track of, and that's really hard to do. So,
yeah, we probably have around 100, 110 jujitsu students.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Ish, all in gym, we probably have about 240 students with karate and our kickboxing and fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tricky. They do log in, but I kind of know who's coming and who's not,
Yeah.
being there all the time. So I'll talk to so I have, Pete Schock, who got his black belt the same day I did from James Clingerman. And then I promoted my first 2 black belts last year. So,
congratulations, man.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Yeah.
So, James gave Pete and I our first stripes last year. So we are 1st degree black belts now.
Yeah.
I think we're eligible for our 2nd, next year. So it'll be 6 years already.
That's crazy.
But we'll get together with the high ranks and just talk like, hey, what do you think? It's not even anything pretty formal because we're usually all on the same page.
Yeah.
But now we have a lot more classes. We have 6 a.m. classes. So sometimes there's guys I don't see because I don't teach jujitsu at 6 a.m.
Yep.
So we got to take that into account. Yeah. So for me, it's just like my basic thing for a blue belt is I always say 2 to 3 years, depending on how much you train.
Yeah.
To me, it's a 2, there will be some outliers that might get it quicker than that. But I really don't want to give it to that. Just, if you have a wrestler come in and just keeps dominating people, well, play guard for a little while and then we'll figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's 2 to 3 years, minimum 2.
Yeah.
And then, we just kind of go from there and see where they're at, how much they're coming. And as it's, how much you put in is how much you get out.
Yeah.
But I've also learned not to compare people either, and not to compare them to my journey too. That's a big thing. I was a brown belt for 6 years.
Wow.
And some of that was because we had some affiliate changes and whatever. And I also feel that I got my brown belt and purple belt a little too soon looking back. But that's whatever. And I'm glad that happened because it's, made me who I am now. And I understand things a lot more. But I've also learned to not compare, the 45-year-old white belt to the 22-year-old white belt.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
That's a great point.
Getting that 45-year-old to understand not to compare himself to that 22-year-old is hard too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey man, I mean, that's, as you know, as we get older, it's not the same,
Yeah.
And I don't want to use that as a crutch either. I've been telling my students that a lot lately and maybe it's because I am getting older. So I kind of take offense to it where I'll hear people say, well, I can't do that because I'm older. I can't do this anymore. It's like, modify what you're doing. Sure, you can't do that. Age is real, right? Always, Father Time catches everybody.
Yep.
But don't use that as a crutch and not to do something either.
That's 100% the same philosophy I have. At 50 years old, I still push myself. I still believe that I can add to my jujitsu, game, we call it, whatever.
Yeah.
Every year I tell myself, okay, I'm going to add this to my game, or I'm going to add that to my game. And, after a while, I don't want to say you run out of shit, but you got to get creative, right? If you're going to add stuff every year. So, but that means stepping out of my comfort zone a lot of times, and I just kind of review like, okay, so how am I getting crushed? Right. What's happening? So how do I avoid that? And then I kind of build a system to help a little bit on that, with that issue. But I really believe I've taught kids and I've taught adults just like you. And, kids will tell you what they feel like doing. Right.
Yeah,
adults will tell you all day long what they can't do before they try.
Yep.
And that, and man, that's, I had Thomas Brzezinski on the show, and he said the first thing he tells adults is you can do hard things.
Yeah.
If you allow yourself, you can do hard things. And that's something that people kind of forget, right? We kind of get stuck in our ways. Yeah. How do you overcome that?
That's tough. I think it's just talking to your students and being open and honest. And, I can remember back, I told you I did karate when I was younger, and we had a sign in that gym, and that's something I can still see to this day. And it said can't, and had one of those red bars over it with the circle.
I love it.
And I just thought the other day, I'm like, I should get one of those for the gym, because I'll show like, hey guys, we're going to pass guard. We're going to do this. And I'll be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, go. And then I'll have somebody immediately say, hey, can you come help me? I'm like, you didn't even try it yet.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, I'll come help you.
Yes.
But like, come on, give it a little bit of effort before you just say, I can't do that because I have short legs, or I can't do that. We can modify things to make it work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When I started, so what I do now is I have a fundamentals class. I have 2 fundamentals classes during the day, during the weekdays, and I have one on a weekend. And, basically what they do in the fundamentals classes, we have a curriculum that does one move for the entire week, right? So we're dissecting the entire week. It's a lot of repetition and very little live sparring. Maybe I'll show them like a counter to the move, and then we'll go live for like a minute or whatever.
Yeah.
So what that allows me to do is it allows me to kind of gauge, kind of read the room a little bit, like teach a very general way. And then when people have their issues, like I had a knee replacement, or I can't move my foot anymore, and stuff like that, you can kind of modify that. But I love what you said about just try it first. You may surprise yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man.
You gotta, and put the reps in, and I'm not really, none of the black belts at the gym or instructors or drill sergeant types. I feel everybody kind of follows the lead of, I'm the head instructor. So they kind of have the vibe that I've put out there for, over the years. So we're not drill sergeants. Like, if you don't want to drill, you're wasting your own time.
Right. Yeah.
But occasionally I will get that. I'll have a little rant where I'll stop class, be like, listen, you guys pay good money to be here. And obviously you all want to be here because I see you all the time.
Yeah.
So you got to put this time in, because you're going to come to me and say, hey, you know what? That tripod sweep you showed didn't work. You know what I mean? And then I'm gonna say, well, let's show me how you're doing it. And you're gonna miss those details. Well, hey, you didn't have the sleeve grip, you didn't grab the ankle, you didn't, stuff like that. So every once in a while I'll have that speech to tell people, because I'm not, that guy that's gonna yell and shout at you to train. Obviously you're coming here, you want to be here, so let's let's do something.
And I do like when students come to me and tell me like, hey, that move doesn't work. Yeah. That tells me they're actually trying it. So
that too, that's a good thing too.
Yeah. So I really enjoy like kind of dissecting that and drilling that and giving them a little, whenever I do a private lesson with a student, I always tell them, if you rep this out 1,000 times, I'll give you a half hour. You know how many students take me up on that? You know how many have taken me up on? 0. 0.0. Actually, no, one guy. Because I wasn't specific. I wasn't specific. Okay. I said, give me 1,000 reps and I'll give you a half hour. Well, he cranked out 1,000 push-ups in a week. And then he hits me up because, hey, coach, I did 1,000 push-ups. I'm like, all right, man of my word, I'll do it. However, next time it's jujitsu, right?
It's jujitsu.
Yeah. But if somebody is willing to invest, the amount of money it takes to do a private lesson, the private lesson, and then apply themselves in such a way that they want to like really, explore that, what we were working on, dude, I'll invest right back in you. Like, let's, you give me 1,000 reps, I'll give you a half hour.
For sure.
But like I said, it's funny because one person is taking me up on it, but yeah, maybe I should do something about my private lesson teaching. I don't know. Maybe I'm the common denominator here. Do you do that? Do you do privates and do you do anything like to encourage people to get their drilling sessions in?
I haven't done anything like that. I like that idea though. I might have to think about that. I don't do a lot of privates here and there. I had one of my guys, he actually just moved to DC for the year and he'll be back, but he did a lot of privates with me. And honestly, in my privates, when it's one-on-one, because obviously it's so hard to teach one person when you don't have an uki to help you. Right.
Yeah.
So honestly, in a lot of my privates, we just roll.
Oh, nice.
And then what I do is I stop them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's what I'm seeing, or here's why you're not passing, or whatever that detail is.
Yeah.
We'll drill that a little bit and go through a scenario. Then we go back to live. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's
so I do. There's times where I've rolled a whole hour private with somebody, you know?
Yeah. Well, talk about getting a good feel for what they're doing or not doing. That's a great idea.
I mean, that's it. Cause a lot of times, again, they don't know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, to sit there and it's like, all right, drill this Americana on me for an hour. It's like, sure. You know, it's like, yeah, you can get good at drilling it, but let's put some reactions into that. If I pull my arm back, or, you know, holding that position, are you truly holding me down and being chest to chest and controlling my head and all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and if you have,
I like to do it.
If you have somebody brand spanking new that comes in, they're in their first week and they're like, hey, professor, you know, I really want to get a private lesson in with you. Where would you start? Obviously you're not going to say no. I never say,
no. I probably would. No, I wouldn't say no, but if they're brand new, I would probably get one of my higher ranks to help me and be the uke and just do a private and just do some basic position stuff. Like, hey, this is top mount. This is back control. You know, go over the major positions.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out, you know, we just had we held an in-house tournament at our gym, only my guys, and it was a white belt tournament.
Nice.
Because there's a local tournament coming up that some guys wanted to compete at and they're nervous. I'm like, well, let's do one here. Awesome. Let's just, you know, see what it's about. And some guys are like, well, I don't know too much. I'm like, that's okay. Do what you know.
Yes.
Just do. If you only know how to knee cut, do that.
Yeah.
Hold position, you know?
Yeah.
So it was really successful. I split it up to 185 and up and 185 and under. We did 2 weight classes, and
I love it.
It was awesome. I had probably 25 white belts there.
Okay. That's good showing.
It was a lot better than I thought.
Yeah, I love that idea, especially for white belts. You know, whenever my competitors come to me and, you know, especially the masters guys, right? Because they have lives, they have careers and all that stuff.
Sure,
and they're like, I want to do Master Worlds this year, and right away I'm like, and then you know, I'll be, you know, doing a little jujitsu math, right? Like, okay, you're this age, you're this weight, you're going to be facing legends. So you probably, you know, I always tell them, you probably don't want Master Worlds to be your first tournament this year, right?
For sure.
Do some tune-ups, right? Do some workups, do some local tournaments. Maybe Nationals is always a really good one as a workup, and then go into Masters Worlds, right? Because if you go into Master Worlds cold, you're going to come out cold. That's just,
for sure.
The brackets are getting bigger, you know, the names are getting bigger, and the you know, the legends are getting older, and they're, you know, they're beating the crap out of us, you know, fairly new guys, right? But yeah, it's really cool. I think it's a great idea that you did that in-house tournament. And how did it help, like, people kind of did it help them with their confidence? Is that what you saw?
I think so, yeah, because I had a lot of people asking me about the next tournament, like, hey, when's the next one? Nice. Like outside of our gym, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a local organization called the Ohio Grappling Challenge that's doing a tournament maybe 10 minutes from us at our local high school.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I kind of want to have a good showing there. Again, we're not like this heavy, you got to compete gym. I don't push it, but if people are interested, we're going to do it. We're going to prepare. And we're going to, you know, show up the best that we can. The other thing, and I like to put this out there for all people that are starting, as I get this white belt thing, like, I don't want to embarrass the gym. I don't want to embarrass you. And my response is, you won't unless you act like a fool.
Right.
You know, if you lose, I don't care.
Yeah.
But if you lose and don't get up and shake the other guy's hand, or if you punch the mat, or if you yell, then we're going to have problems. Like I said, I'm not this drill sergeant. I don't get mad, but we're going to have a a conversation on how you can't act that way, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's
and there's emotion. Like if you want to go outside, me and you can yell at me. Let's talk about it. There's emotions involved. But you also want to conduct yourself, you know, because we've all probably been to those tournaments where a certain gym shows up. You're like, oh, those guys are here, you know, because they don't, the way they carry themselves, you know, it's out there.
Absolutely.
So I never want that, you know. I think we've worked hard to have a good reputation in the jiu-jitsu community in Ohio, and that's why I want to keep it. You know, we're a fun gym to come to. And
yeah, that's cool. How do you work that? Because I have the same philosophy. I really don't push competitions, but I have people who want to compete. I love competing, so I just love the process. I really like the competition. I'm like, meh, you know, I kind of enjoy getting ready for it, but you know, I have students that want to compete. And it might be, you know, 10% of my student base.
right.
You know, a very small portion.
Very small.
But So how do you, obviously you want to cater to them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like special classes for them? Do you hold special training events for them during the week, or how do you do that?
So I did recently in the last, I don't know, 6 months, whatever, I did add a competition class on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
So, it can be anywhere from 2 to 8 people, and that's fine. We do a lot less instruction, a lot more drill focused.
Yeah.
What are you working on? Let's tweak that. And then we do a lot of positional rounds.
Yeah.
We'll do 10-minute rounds sometimes. So that's for them. And then what I'll typically do if I know there's a lot of people competing, Monday nights, I'll teach a more competition focus. We'll do bad positions.
Okay.
So I'll switch, like me and you're together. You have my back. I set the timer for a minute. You have a minute to submit me. I have a minute to get out.
Nice.
If any of those happen, we reset. And then we just go through all the major positions and do that, so, and then we'll do line drills and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of cardio in those classes, or do you rely on the students to handle their own cardio?
So we don't do a lot of cardio in those classes. To me, and not saying obviously you should do extra when you can.
Yeah.
To me, jujitsu is the best cardio you're going to get if you're doing jujitsu.
100%. Yeah.
How do you get better at jujitsu? Do more jujitsu.
More jujitsu. Yeah.
I'm not going to say that those other things are going to help you. Obviously, cardio, lifting, getting in shape are all going to help you.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like rolling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard George St. Pierre say something once that I kind of I've taken to heart, and I pass that along to my students. Is he breaks it up into 3 parts when he goes into a training camp. Number one is physical, right? Are you physically fit? If the answer is no, okay, we're gonna get you physically fit. The second is are you technically sound? If the answer is no, if you can't technically beat your upcoming opponent, we got to work on technique. And then the last portion is tactics. Now, if you don't have a lot of time to do tactics because you're not physically fit, and we had to take time to get you physically fit, you're in deep trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I always ask the students, show up fit. Yeah. Show up fit. Before we start competition training, you got to be in physical fitness. And really that philosophy comes from, I don't have a wrestling background. We didn't have wrestling in my high school when I was a kid. But, what I love about wrestling is there's a price to pay to learn the technique. You can't show up out of shape.
No, you're going to get exposed really quick.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And, being in Ohio, I'm very lucky to be around a lot of good wrestlers.
Yeah, man.
We have a lot of good wrestlers that come in and still, teach, and we'll do a lot of wrestling on no-gi nights. And then some nights in the gi, because, you can be a great wrestler, but as soon as you get a collar and sleeve grip, it takes all your takedowns away. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, how am I going to break those grips to reshoot or whatever I'm doing. So but those wrestlers come in, and you gotta slow them down a little bit and break them some bad habits. Yeah. But they have what you can't teach, and that's that go. We're gonna go.
Yeah, I love that. And I've got our wrestling coach is a really good jiu-jitsu guy as well. But it's taken a little while to get him to play off his back. I always tell him, like, you can always wrestle up anytime you want. It's almost at will, right? But let's start with a guard pull, right? And let's go from there. So and he's been like, for a guy, he's not super young and not super old. He might be like a master's 2 or something like that. But he's very open. He's very receptive to coaching. You know what I mean? And he understands that, going into that next level, going into purple belt, wrestling's going to get you pretty far, but not as far as it did at blue belt.
Nope. Not at all. Yeah. You got to get some technique, and I've, like I said, had a lot of wrestlers come in over the years. And one of my students used to call me the wrestler whisperer, because I would get them because they wouldn't want to train in the gi. And I'm like, no, you have to train in the gi. There's no options. Yeah. So I've got a lot of guys that, came up, and I made them get in the gi right away, play off their back, and really get technical. Yeah. I had one of my purple belts, Tim Stinson. Him and one of my blue belts, Trace, are doing the Pan Ams in a couple weeks. Yeah. Nice. And Tim is very, very technical. And a good wrestler. And he works with a lot of De La Hiva. And he asked me, he's like, hey, when I get them, if I kick them out in De La Hiva and they post, their hand behind them, what am I looking for here? I'm like, wrestle up. He's like, well, I know I can do that. I'm like, then do it. Don't look for some big answer. You know what I mean? Like, if you can wrestle up, oh my gosh, just do it. Wrestle up and get the points. And
100%. Yeah. Especially if they give you that, right? If it's there, take it. Yeah.
Take it. Absolutely. Sometimes we get into these positions and we just overthink, like, what other jujitsu moves can I do here?
Yeah. Right.
And if they're really, like I said, if their weight's that far on their hands, just wrestle up.
Yeah. I tell my students, I was teaching scissor sweep in the fundamentals class. And I was explaining to them, like, in order to sweep somebody, you don't have to put them on their back, right? As long as their hip hits the mat, you're in business, right? So that's my goal. And I told them one of the most effective sweeps that I had in competition was, a half guard knee shield. And I have collar and I have sleeve. And then, I'm setting up a scissor sweep, but as they're leaning back to break my collar grip, I just sat up and pushed them.
Yeah.
Butt onto the mat. And next thing you know, I'm on top. I was like, as long as you understand, like, it doesn't take anything spectacular to get somebody on their butt. All you got to do is push them right over that ankle. As long as you understand those little dynamics, those little concepts, you're in business, right? So it's just one of those things. It just clicked in my brain. I was like, just push them. And I did. And it worked. I was like, that's all it takes sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Concepts are so big, right? Like sometimes we'll just talk about that because I can teach you a scissor sweep and we can drill it till we're, 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But man, if you don't have the concepts or if you don't understand the mechanics of that sweep, like, hey, I have to pull him forward to get his weight off his butt. Now he's light. I can sweep him. You get those guys that really, the wrestlers that put all their weight in their butt and then you're still trying to muscle it. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? You're never going to win this battle.
Ever. Yeah.
Ever. Pull him forward. It's, that's efficiency is so important in jujitsu. And I try to I know if I pull off something, I'm doing it with jujitsu because of my size, I'm not muscling anything.
Yeah. What are you weighing right now?
I weighed myself last night. I was 161. It's the heaviest I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I haven't rolled in 3 months.
Yeah. I was going to say due to injury. Yeah.
Yeah. I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I usually walk around at 53, 55, maybe. Yeah. I'm usually, and that's just, I've been small my whole life and, waiting for that.
But you're 6'1"?
Close. Yeah. Close.
Okay. Yeah, man. That's interesting. That's actually a good weight for somebody 6'1", actually, because
I've always wanted, growing up as a kid, I was, always a small kid. And I look at these big guys that are strong and it's like, man, I wish I was that guy, know? And same thing, we always hear, I wish I would have wrestled. I wish I was strong. I wish I was this. Like, man, take your attributes and do with them what you can.
Yeah.
Like, if I wrestled, would my guard game be as good as it is now? Probably not.
Right.
I would have a more dominant top game.
Yeah.
Would I be in the best shape if I was that guy? I probably possibly have a lot more injuries.
Yeah.
So I took what I could and used it how I can.
Yeah. I have a good friend of mine that's a brown belt right now. And we were white belts together, and he wanted to do a competition. And he is 6'7", and he is a big person. He played offensive line in college.
Okay.
And but he keeps himself in really good shape. I mean, he was at the time he was probably about 240, 250 pounds, something like that. But at that height, he carried it really well.
For sure.
And at one point he got himself to 219. I was like, that's too skinny, bro.
It's pretty skinny. Yeah.
But so he really dug into being more technical when he got what he calls probably the worst compliment he's ever gotten, because he talked to our coach at the time about competing. And our coach goes, "Oh man, you could totally win white belt tournaments." And he's like, well, that doesn't sound very flattering. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I guess I could beat white belts, but I want to beat, up higher belts. So he did compete, but he really took that to heart and started being as technical as he could. And, good on him. I mean, and he wasn't a young guy. He's older than I am. So, I mean, people like that are just open to that kind of coaching are amazing to me, because he could easily be that guy that just throws you across the mat, gets side control, and then stalls.
Yeah.
Right.
And over the years, I've learned how to say this to people in a better way or understand it. Like, you always don't use your strength. Don't use your strength. Be technical. Like, it's okay to use your strength if you have it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty flexible. I'm not going to not use my flexibility.
Yep.
Right. So there's a difference between using your strength and just ramping up on somebody and being a jerk.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like, if you feel you're using your strength on somebody that is not as strong as you,
Yeah.
don't be that guy, be more technical.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to competition, man, use what you got.
Yeah.
When the jujitsu is equal, there's something that's going to take over, and that's going to be that, that strength
Yeah.
or athleticism. Be an
Yeah.
athlete.
100%.
Some guys get upset when I'm like, man, you're athletic. That helps your jujitsu. Well, I just want to be known for being good at jujitsu. Well, dude, if I had your athletic ability, I would take it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
To add to what you have. So
Yeah.
yeah, don't be, I don't want to say ashamed of your attributes, but you use them.
Yeah.
Use them.
I have some heavier guys. You know how when guys come into the academy at first, they're a little
Yeah.
heavier, and they're
Yeah.
their gi kind of fits them. Their belt looks like
Yeah.
a little bow tie, and they're very timid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell them, I was like, I said, you've probably been told, like your whole life, oh, be careful, you don't want to land on anybody, you're the big
Oh,
guy in the
right.
room. I
Yeah.
was like, use the tools God gave you.
Yeah.
Let's start crushing people. Right.
Yeah.
You'll get
Yeah.
into better shape. We'll lose some of the weight, but I want you to
Yep.
use your attributes. So yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dude. So, tell me a little bit about, your academy, where you see it, like what direction you're going. Like, are you going to expand? Are you guys looking at another location? Are you guys doing
No,
it?
I mean, we're, kind of staying, I guess the ultimate goal was that we rent every month. We have a really good facility, which is awesome. Would we like to have our own place, own land, all that? Man, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky to be right in the heart of Canton and by a good area.
Yeah.
So we're going to stay where we're at as of right now. Would it be to grow? Would it be awesome to grow and have to get another place? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's some nights. So like I said, we have a lot of mat space, and we actually share the like I'll teach jujitsu at 7:30, and then at 7:45 kickboxing starts.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we share the space with our kickboxing program too.
Nice.
So I'll have 40 guys in jujitsu, and they'll have 15 in kickboxing.
You got plenty of room.
So it does get a little, because of course everywhere you go has a pole right in the middle, right? Like for
right, yeah.
It just has to be there,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But so we share that space, but if we would have to get another space because of size, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep doing what we do. And hopefully everybody wants to do jujitsu and martial arts, and have kids coming in and doing karate, and, people want to get in shape, coming and doing our fitness program, and
yeah, man,
just keep building that,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Limitless Radiocast. Tell me about that. How did that get started?
So that was kind of a, I'm sure we hear a lot of a COVID project, right? So, I was on a podcast during COVID. It was the Andocast. I don't even know if he does anything anymore. And a couple of my guys are like, man, you did really good on that podcast. You sound good. You talked well. He's like, you should do your own. I'm like, whatever. I'm not a podcast guy.
Yeah.
And then Terry, who's my, we do the podcast together. So Terry actually had 9 classes in when COVID hit and we had to shut down.
Wow.
So, for whatever, we became really good friends right away. And it would have been really easy for him not to come back to jujitsu.
Yeah.
Having 9 classes in, but he was bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And, me and him would joke about a podcast. And one day I got 2 Amazon packages. It was my headset and my microphone. And I called Terry and I'm like, did you buy these? He's like, yeah, we're doing a podcast.
I love Terry. I haven't met him, but I love the guy. That's awesome.
So, and then it was like, what are we going to call it? And then, as you probably know, doing a podcast, every name has been thought of.
Yes.
Some of them are hokey. It's like, oh yeah, Tap Out Radio, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was sitting watching a Fight to Win one night, and one of the announcers said the word limitless. And I called Terry and I'm like, I got the name. It's Limitless. Yeah. Well, now what do you pair with it? Because Limitless Podcast was taken. Limitless Jiu-Jitsu's taken.
Yeah.
And we stumbled upon Radiocast that wasn't taken. So that's what we went with.
Yeah.
And I think this Monday we'll have our 90th episode or 91st episode. So
good for you, man.
Yeah, we just keep doing it. We try to do one a week and, bank a couple when we can. And we've been really fortunate to have some, we've been really fortunate to have some really high level guys on, and I have my own students on to talk, and local business people. I'd like to have local business people that also do jujitsu. Like one of my blue belts owns Magic City Brewing. Nice. One of my blue belts owns a coffee shop. So we've talked to them and, you know, just to have an organic conversation and talk to people, you know?
I love it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. What was it? How much time from, well, gosh, well, okay. So how much time from concept to pressing record, passed by? How much time passed?
Not much, maybe a couple months, maybe.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, our first episode was in January of 2021. So just a little over 2 years, and we're, you know, pushing that 100 episodes, and I think we're pushing 15,000 downloads.
That's fantastic,
So,
man.
yeah.
Good for you. That's great.
Which is weird. I'm sure you know, I don't know if you noticed this. Downloads don't turn into subscribers or follows or anything.
No.
You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing. Like on YouTube, like we'll get a lot of episodes where you get a lot of views on YouTube, but not many not many people subscribe. So I don't know what the correlation is there or the algorithm that's weird.
Yeah.
Then some shows are bigger on YouTube than they are on Apple or vice versa. It's like, it's just a weird anomaly, you know?
Yeah. I'll look at the views on YouTube and I'll be like, wow, I really thought that episode would do better. But then I'll look on Anchor or, you know, on Spotify and it's gotten, you know, hundreds. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's so just odd.
Yeah. So I think what we've done is our shorts get us subscribers, because it's really easy to hit subscribe when you're looking at the short. But you know, I have a really good method of getting subscribers, and I'll share it with you. I guilt my friends into
subscribing.
Yeah, I'm like, give me your phone. I bet you're not subscribed, because I'm going to subscribe to you right now. So that's kind of my method.
That's what we are missing. We haven't done shorts. I've done a couple in the past where I'll clip up something, but I am not consistent. So that's something I need to do.
Yeah, you have so much gold in your podcast to do shorts. Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
So basically the concept, the idea for our podcast came up in my backyard during COVID.
Okay.
And it was my buddy and I, who's on the show a lot. And he and I were talking about, man, we should really do one. And it was 2 years from the time we thought about it to the time we press record.
Yeah.
2 years. So, I mean, if it weren't, I almost wish I had what's your friend's name again?
Terry.
I wish I had a Terry that would just mail the stuff over to me and it's like, jump on the podcast. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, we got to figure this out. So
yeah.
And then we started, I don't know how much you've looked into it, but we started also a brand called Limitless Tape. It's like finger tape.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so you have to check that out. That was kind of a brainchild from me and Terry, where, you know, we were using a certain brand that we didn't like anymore. We'll talk about that later. But so Terry's like, you know, we're like, why don't we do our own brand of tape? So we contacted some distributors, got a bunch of samples in.
Yeah.
We gave them to all our guys. We're like, hey, test this stuff and see what you think.
Nice.
So yeah, we have Limitless Tape, and we do wholesale for academy owners. And just kind of, you know, try to build it. It's tough. I mean, it's harder than the podcast to get people to buy, you know, like, but just like the podcast, I feel it's one person away from like jumping off. Like,
for sure.
Oh, Gordon Ryan used Limitless Tape. Where's that come from? You know,
as
soon as you get, but we use it, we sell it at the gym too. So we're not going to stop.
Yeah. You know, you're going into your, you know, like, I think you said 100th podcast. Is that
Close,
right?
Yeah. It's getting there.
You're at the upper end of where most podcasts get. I mean, you're most podcasts don't make it past 50, 25, maybe.
Right.
You know, very.
Yeah, I actually heard the number before, and you're right. It's in the low 20s, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, people say there's millions of podcasts, but how many of those are actually active? Can't be that many. Many. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So how do you just kind of getting some podcast ideas? So how do you book your guests? Do you just reach out on social media?
Yep. So mainly Instagram. I feel it's same, like I messaged you, like when I saw you doing some stuff, like, hey, you guys want to talk about jiu-jitsu? You know, I'll reach out, and most people are pretty cool, you know, and answer back yes or no. Not many have said no. Recently I've had 2 people ask me if I would pay them to be on the podcast.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's the first 2 ever. And I'm like, you know, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
That's not really, you know, we're about putting you out there.
Right.
You know, as much as you're coming on our show to help us, we're helping you too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just messaged people like, you know, we had Kenny Florian on the show. I just reached out, like, I don't know if he'll even message me back.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool.
So we've had, and he's actually told me to tell you hi. We had Todd Fox on twice.
Todd, he's my boy, man. Yeah, he submitted me in a tournament.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did.
He's such a good, genuine dude.
He is. I got to get him
really
on.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had him on early on, like episode 19, and then we just had him on episode like 89 or something when his new book came out. So
yeah, I'm going through his book now, and I just gotta I'd like to get a little bit farther into it before I get him on, but I definitely have to get him on. Yeah, he's an interesting guy because he's very quiet. You know what I mean? It doesn't talk about himself much, and then you see this book coming out, and you see what he does for a living. You're like, holy crap, dude! Yeah,
he's an important dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
very important.
He was in Arizona not too long ago. There's a little town, Cottonwood, and the singer from Tool lives up there. So he did a little seminar out there, and Todd was there. And,
that's what he was saying. Yeah, it's very
cool,
very cool guy. So we've been very lucky. We've had a lot of good people on, man.
Yeah, that's cool. So where do you see your podcast going? What do you want to do with it?
Just keep doing what we're doing. Just be as organic. We haven't paid for a single podcast subscriber, follow, boost post. We're just kind of putting it out there and see what happens. I think no matter if it was just me and Terry talking about jiu-jitsu each week, I think we would still do it. Just get on different topics, and we want to do that a little more where it's just Terry and I talking about a certain topic. And that's good for filler stuff. If we have a guest that cancels, or we have, if we can't do it, we at least have something to put out there.
Yeah. I like what the guys at Bulletproof for BJJ do.
Okay.
They're a couple guys from Australia, and they're very intelligent guys, and they'll talk about, like, I think one of them might be a physical trainer. So they'll talk about like how to stay healthy and, Bulletproof or BJJ, but they'll talk about like, what makes a good academy, and, what to do when you're a white belt and don't know what to do, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it's really cool, really cool information. I really enjoy their material, but listen, I'm a little bit up against it. I got to head back to the academy and make a sale.
All good, dude.
But I want to take you through my lightning round of questions, if you don't mind.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right. All right. Here we go. So, there are no wrong answers, but with the exception of one. There's one wrong answer, but I won't tell you what that is. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Name a game show you think you could actually win.
A game show. Man, it's not on anymore. Rock and Roll Jeopardy. You remember that?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Cheat meal? I would say, let's say Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Ooh, wow. Awesome. What's the longest you've gone without brushing your teeth?
2 days.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Whoo!
Gun to your head. You got to do it.
Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places.
All right. What's a dumb song you secretly like? You would never play it in front of people, but you dig it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have any because I embrace them all.
Okay.
It would probably be some like NSYNC boy band song. and I embrace it. Like, if you want to make fun of me, I'm owning it.
I love it. Do you sleep in or take a nap?
Take a nap.
PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox.
DC or Marvel?
You're probably gonna hate me. Neither. I don't get into either of them.
That's all right. Use a public restroom or hold it?
A public restroom.
Would you rather travel into the future or back in time?
Back in time.
Rolling Stones or Elvis?
Elvis.
What's your favorite childhood TV show?
Dukes of Hazzard.
Ah, nice. I had one guy say A-Team. I was like, oh man, the A-Team. I totally forgot about that one. Dukes of Hazzard was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Chad, I really appreciate you being on, man.
Thank you.
Reaching out. I would love to be a guest on your show sometime.
Yeah, we'll work. Yeah, for sure. Yes, sir.
But again, man, this was a really cool conversation, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for being on.